Hello and welcome to session 3. So today we're going to get into embedded questions. We didn't quite have enough time for it in session 2, but today we're going to get into it in a lot of detail. So before we begin, what exactly is an embedded question? Well, just like the name suggests, right? Imagine, a video, right? It's embedded into a website. So it's a video within a website. An embedded question is the same concept. So it's a question within a question or a question within a statement. So when would we use these types of questions and why? Well, we would use them in a lot of situations, both in your professional and personal life, because it's a way of being a little more polite, a little more formal, and in many cases, more professional. So imagine that you work in a doctor's office, or you work on the phone collecting information from clients. So you have to ask a client for personal information, such as a telephone number, an address, or in a doctor's office, maybe age or weight. Right? In these types of situations, we probably wouldn't want to use a direct question. If you ask a person, what's your address or what's your phone number, right, it might be considered a little bit rude. So instead of asking a direct question, we can ask an embedded question such as, would you mind telling me what your address is? Could you tell me what your phone number is? Right? So by changing the question just a little bit, right, we're much more professional and we're much more formal in these types of delicate situations. So let's get right into it and see how we can form an embedded question. So when you look here, right, you can see I've written up here open question. So as you probably remember from the first session, if you saw it, an open question is any question that has a multitude of answers, right? A multitude of possible answers, right? Such as what is your name, where you could answer almost anything. So an open question always begins with a question word, right? For now, we're going to look at open questions. Then we'll change over the board and we'll look at some closed questions as well. So here we have an open direct question. Where did I put my keys? So how do we take this and we make it into an embedded question? Well, first, we always begin an embedded question with some sort of short statement or short question. All right, so what you can see in black here, all right, this is a short statement. I can't remember. Or a short question, do you know? All right, and these that we have down here are also the same. All right, so we have lots of examples. But for now, let's just focus up here. So I can't remember. And then we have to follow a certain structure. All right, this structure you can see right here. Question word, subject, verb, and if you want to include it, an object. So here we go. I can't remember. Question word, where? Subject, I. Verb, put. Object, my keys. Simple, right? We're following this formula that we have right here, and we can form a perfect embedded question, right? Sometimes it's difficult when you're speaking to stop and think about the grammar behind what you're going to say. And so another way that you can think about this to try and make it a little easier, perhaps it helps you, perhaps it doesn't, but I'll give you the suggestion, is that you can think about it like this, right? First we put the question word, and then after we put the rest of the words in the same word order as a statement, right? So essentially, we put the question word, right? And then we make a statement where I put my keys. All right? So this is another way to think about it, right? In this example, as we have here, right, this auxiliary verb gets dropped. All right, so it gets dropped because we don't use the auxiliary verb in this example, in the past simple, all right, when we make a positive statement. So another reason that you can simply think about this as making a statement, okay? So Whatever you think is the easiest, okay? You can think about this structure that we have here, or simply the word order of a statement. Right now, if we take a look at the question, it's the same. Do you know where I put my keys? Right, this is exactly the same as this, because it doesn't matter if you put it into a statement or if you put it into a question, the embedded question will always have the same word order. Now, let's take a look at another example. Okay, I have two more examples for you in the the present continuous and the present perfect. So, here, where are you going? Right, if we want to put this into an embedded question, right, here we have an example of a question within a question. We begin with this question, could you tell me? Right, and then we add the embedded question, where, right, question word, and the rest of the words in the same word order as a statement. You are going. Right, you can see that it's still following the same structure, question word, where, subject, you, verb, are going. Right, in this case, unlike the first example with the past simple, we are taking this auxiliary verb and we're moving it over here to go with going. All right, and the reason that we're doing this is this auxiliary verb cannot just be dropped. It's essential to the meaning and to the tense of this verb. Okay, are going. All right, the present the present continuous doesn't exist without this auxiliary verb. So, we'll take a look at one more example. Where has he been? All right, so here we have the same, right? We're going to follow the same structure and do everything in the same way, but it's just one more example for you. So, firstly, the question within a question, and then secondly, the question within a statement. All right, and you'll see in this example as well that a lot of times an embedded question is actually both the question and the response, okay? Because this that we have here is a question itself and a possible response. So, do you know where he has been? All right, same structure as here. All right, and just like in the present continuous, we take has, the auxiliary verb, and we move it over here. All right, so do you know where he has been? Right, and the response to this question, I don't know where he has been. All right, so a lot of times, if we're asking for information, right, we respond in the same way that we're asked. All right, I don't know where he's been, or I do know where he's been. Right, I know where he's been because he's been here with me the whole time. So it's just an example for you to consider. So this is open questions. All right, now I'm going to take a minute, change over the board, and we'll get into closed questions. All right, well, let's take a look at closed questions now. All right, so really there's no difference, well, there's very little difference between closed and open questions with embedded questions because there's just one simple change. Right, as you know already, in a closed question we begin with an auxiliary verb. In an open question we begin with a question word. So if we take a look at the structure here, right, in this structure, right, that question word gets eliminated when we're talking about closed questions. So in its place, we have if or whether. All right, you'll see in the examples that we're going to go through now that I've put if in all of the examples. And that's just simply because for me and where I'm from, if is a much more common word than whether. You don't really hear whether used very often, although both of them are correct and you can feel free to use either one. So essentially, the structure is exactly the same except for this. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. All right, here we have the closed question. Do we have a meeting today? All right, if we want to make this into an embedded question, all right, we do it in the same way as we did before. All right, so the question, do you know? Right, if, instead of the question word, we have a meeting today. All right, so relatively simple, right? We maintain this in the structure of a statement instead of the structure of a question. So essentially, since we're speaking about the present simple, we're just eliminating this auxiliary verb. Right? And imagine you ask a coworker, and the coworker responds. Right? I have no idea if we have a meeting today. All right? It's exactly the same here as it is here. Right? Let's take a look at one more example. right? And this is in the future. Imagine that you call because you need to speak with a client or you need to speak with someone, and the secretary takes the phone and unfortunately he or she is not available. So you may ask the question, will he be available tomorrow? All right? It's okay, but it's very direct, right? If you want to be a little more formal, a little more professional, you could ask this question. Could you tell me if he will be available tomorrow? All right, and just like every other example we've looked at, we're following the same exact structure. All right, if he will be available tomorrow. All right, and perhaps the person on the other end of the phone doesn't know. All right, maybe he or she could say, I don't know if he will be available tomorrow. I'll have to check and get back to you. All right, so I hope this helps to clarify the mystery of embedded questions, okay, because it is quite difficult for a lot of people. All right, like I said before, if you can think about this in two different ways. All right, sometimes it's very difficult to remember the exact structure that you have to follow when you're actually on the phone or speaking in person. All right, so another way to think about this that may or may not be easier for you, all right, it's just a suggestion that I'm making, is that you take this extra word here, all right, if, or in the case of open questions, who, what, where, when, why, a question word, all right, and you just simply keep the rest in the same structure as a statement. So I hope this has helped, and I hope to see you for session 4. Take care.